Like a butterfly deep inside, wrestling to break free. Like a butterfly deep inside, with Yahusha spirit seed. Like a butterfly deep inside, this burning in my heart. Like a butterfly deep inside, setting me apart.
Hi brothers and sisters, welcome. Tonight we're going to talk about the biggest controversy in the world. One word. Guess what the word is, guys? It's the biggest controversy in the world today, especially in the religious realm.
Control?
No?
Jesus?
Jesus?
Baby cheeses. Worship? No, we've already covered that.
Sin?
Sin, no.
It's the biggest controversy in the world, causes more trouble than anything else.
Money? No, it's boring.
It's not sex.
No.
Causes more trouble than anything else.
One
Lies.
word. It's a Hebrew word. It's a name.
Yahusha.
No.
Yahuah.
Yahuah.
Oh,
Yahuah.
right.
Yeah.
Biggest
Biggest
controversy.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to ask you guys a question, and I just want you to answer from your heart truthfully. I'm not looking for any marvelous thing. I just want your heart, what you feel. When you hear the word Yahuah, how does it make you feel?
A bit nauseous,
Yeah?
particularly if someone's talking about it in reality, like, praise Yahuah, and they're saying it today. I go, oh, you poor thing, you don't understand. He's not there. It's one thing to refer to him historically as he was, but they still think he's there. So yeah, it makes me feel like when we came out of Christianity with Jesus. It feels a bit like that. Like, oh, we don't use that. We don't say that. That's not him. That's not him anymore. Not understanding who he is.
Mm-hmm.
When I hear it, I think the name Yahuah, straight away I think, well, they're still following the old covenant. They won't come into and accept Yahusha, and it's like an affront to Yahusha that they bypass him, and they want to continually put Yahuah's name, worship Yahuah, and have Yahuah as their Elohim. When Yahuah divorced the Israelites, divorced the Jews, and he's no more, because when he came into flesh, he gave up himself and became Yahusha. So they won't accept that, and it's very it's impossible to explain, to get them to see. In my way, I haven't been able to get anyone to give it up when they want to praise Yahuah, and Yahuah's coming back, and it's disgusting because they bypass what Yahusha did.
If you look at the Old Covenant, Old Testament, all of that, Yahuah was the Father, and that's what they believe is still there, the Father, the image of the Father. So they think that he is still on the throne, which is wrong, because you can't divorce somebody and still be the same. You have to change in order to show, or he had to change in order to show his people that I'm not with you anymore. I'm no longer there. So they're basically worshipping a name that is basically long gone.
Yeah.
So it makes makes me feel like, how stupid are these people that they can't see? They have eyes but they don't see, they have ears but they don't hear. They refuse.
I feel like they're just ignorant. They don't want to, see what Yahusha's done. They just want to dwell on the past and all that's happened in the past.
Yeah.
And just take advantage of all of that kind of stuff. Because they don't want to go through anything that's actually tough or might, catch out what they're doing. Put a light on how they actually, put a light on themselves.
Yeah. So that's how you all feel.
Yeah, pretty nauseous. It's hideous.
How do you feel?
Oh,
What do
I'm
you
shocked. Oh, you're interested in how I feel.
Yeah.
I'll just write you out an invitation to the conversation.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
So we're just looking at the name Yahuah, and we want to investigate who he was.
Yeah.
So when I look at the historical document, the Old Covenant, I love Yahuah. Everything he did was so marvellous and wonderful.
Yeah.
That's how it makes me feel. You asked me, so I'm telling you. That's how I feel.
Yeah.
I think I would rather look past everything that's going on and look at him, what he went through for his people. So, how do you feel about how I feel?
I agree. Yeah. Because you're going back in history.
Yeah, I'm just
He's-
looking at it
he's-
historically, who he was.
He's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Incredible. So I don't have any negative feelings towards him.
No.
Or his name. It's there for a reason. And I just want us to go back from the time of the Israelites leaving Egypt, how they got out. And I just want to walk from there to Moses and then stop at the end of Solomon's life and just look at Yahuah, what he did. We're just looking historically what he did, who he was, how he felt. We want to discover his heart, looking at his heart. And from the period of coming out of Egypt to the end of the temple, how long, and the scattering of his people, the divorce, how long was that period of time?
It was nearly 1,000, not quite 1,000 years from Egypt to, it was probably about 1,000 years from Egypt to Solomon's temple, once you add it all up.
So he appeared to Moses at the burning bush. Moses had to go in, tell Pharaoh, let my people go so they can come and worship me. Right. So that was effective. Pharaoh agreed eventually to that. And there were all sorts of things that came on Pharaoh and his people. What happened to Egypt?
It's decimated.
Plagues.
Yeah.
Still haven't recovered to this day.
What hasn't recovered?
The nation, the devastation.
What happened to it?
Because Egypt was the global metropolis of the time. There was no bigger. Babylon, after the fall of Babylon and the tower, Egypt became the next big thing.
Yeah.
And it was behaving as such. It was the superpower. And after those plagues, 10 plagues, Don't mean to list them all.
Don't make
The
what?
whole
Listen.
country was decimated.
Yeah, the whole country was decimated through those plagues, and they've never recovered to this day.
Well, he destroyed Egypt, didn't he?
Mm.
Yahusha did.
Yeah.
Yahuah, sorry.
Mm.
He destroyed Egypt.
It didn't used to be a desert like it is now.
No.
No, it was
No.
really lush and
Mm.
prosperous, and
Mm.
it had a lot of wealth in the ground and the.
But Yahuah had a plan.
Mm.
If you look at those 3 million Jews,
Mm.
he wanted to do something globally.
Yeah, I often wondered why, if he made all these special promises to Abraham and you'll be this and you'll be that, and he told him he was going to do it, why did he choose to take them all into captivity and slavery? And that's where they really became that 3 million like stars of the sky, and as many as the sand. He obviously wanted to bring them out of a captivity situation where their minds were just stuffed.
You guys got an answer to Mark?
Why didn't he just build them from Abraham and multiply them from that? He wanted them to multiply
It's a good question.
Yeah.
in a slavery situation. He wanted them to obviously know what slavery was.
Yeah.
He needed to build his people up in numbers, and the easiest way would have been when they were in slavery.
But all the problems he had with them, all through the wilderness wanderings, were because they wanted to keep worshipping
Oh, we're
like
just
their
in
Egypt.
Egypt at the moment.
But that's what I'm saying.
Right.
They wouldn't give up their Egypt.
Mm.
They wouldn't. So that's why I often wonder, what do you fill them with that for?
So what's the question you often wonder?
I often wonder why he brought them out of slavery. Why? Because he took them in there in the first place,
Yes,
Joseph, and he took them in there in the first place.
yes.
Why did he want them to come out of slavery? Because they never got over it. They never achieved it. They never
Never achieved what?
coming out of idolatry. They still kept going back to their Egyptian mindset.
All right, so have you girls got an answer? You two, you're not a girl. The three of you, have you got an answer for Mark?
Even Solomon, they brought
What
the golden
was
calf.
Yahuwah's plan all the way along? They went in there because of famine.
Mm.
They had to go, and Joseph went in there first. And
Do you want to ask why was there a famine?
No.
Why did Yahuah do that?
Well, he was outside of all of it. The famine caused them to go in. He wanted them to go in. They were prosperous to start with, then they became slaves.
You don't think the famine came from Yahuah?
All of it came from
Yeah.
Yahuwah.
Oh, right.
He told Abraham they're going to go into slavery.
We're trying to ease your
why did
wonderment.
they go into slavery
okay.
to
I'm
never
okay.
get out?
There's no answer. He wanted it to be that way. It was his plan.
It was his plan, but
Well, if you think about it, they learnt a number of different skills when they were in slavery. Stuff that they wouldn't have known before that.
Mm.
So all those skills that they've picked up while they were in slavery, the knowing how to make the bricks and mine the gold and all that sort of stuff, they were used for that purpose, for Egypt.
Mm.
So Yahuwah needed them to go in
Educated them.
and learn
Mm.
all the tricks
Trades.
of the trades,
Yeah.
so that they knew when they come out how to build the tabernacle, how to build the brazen altar, and every bit of furniture that was in that temple and tabernacle.
Mm.
He needed them to know all that.
Mm.
They didn't know any of that. They were just shepherds.
Yeah.
And so that was a learning process for them
Yep.
to do what?
In order for, when he brought them out of Egypt, in order for them to build the tabernacle to start with.
Right. And they had skills
Yes,
because of that situation.
yes.
You remember all this stuff? We went through all that, remember?
Yeah.
So how does that answer?
I can see he wanted them to choose him. He wanted them to come out of
How does the
slavery and choose.
answer satisfy
I'm
you?
very satisfied. I'm
You
ecstatic.
are not.
I'm ecstatic.
You just keep going from subject to
he
subject.
wanted them to choose
You
him.
won't stay in the historical line,
Yeah, I can
timeline.
see that. He brought them out and he
So
wanted
you
them
had
to
a question about Abraham. Why?
I feel good about it now.
You sure?
Yeah.
So tell me what you've learned from what Therese said.
They went in just as shepherds and they came out with a whole diverse education, trades, idolatry, and he wanted them through all that to come out, as we're all supposed to, come out of it and choose him. Choose to be the way he wants them to be, behave his way, come into his form of worship.
What was he educating them all for? Why did they have to learn all those trades?
So that they could build the tabernacle.
I
And
didn't ask you the answer. I know you know the answer, but he won't give in to that answer. So I'm asking him about that.
So they could be useful and build things. The tabernacle, later on the temple. Yes.
So does that satisfy you
Oh yeah,
from talking?
absolutely.
Why that happened, so you don't have to live in that confusion anymore?
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, very good.
Okay. Right, and we're looking at Yahuah, what he's actually doing, and this is really good talking. So you're learning about who.
Yahuah.
And what do you think Yahuah's feeling was for Israel at that time?
He loved them. He wanted them to get out of the bondage of slavery, set them free, to take them through the wilderness, the desert, which wasn't meant to be 40 years, to the promised land. He had a promised land prepared for them.
He, as you said in the beginning, had a plan. This, what Therese has answered, is part of his plan.
So that they could worship him. That was what the eventual main thing, that his people would
And
get
that's
to know
Mark's
him.
point, so they would come to him. Yeah?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's when he was on the mount.
Yeah.
He came down.
Yeah.
So how do you think Yahuah was feeling about what he'd organised, destroying Egypt, taking their wealth, bringing his people to the mount, to himself, to what?
worship him. So he
And
couldn't.
what happened? What did they end up doing?
They refused it. They refused to go up the mountain and meet with him. So they said to Moses, "You go."
Why?
Because they were scared.
So how do you think Yahuah felt about the way he approached them? And they were all scared. They wouldn't feel brave and bold and want to go up with Moses. He was right into it. He wanted to get up the hill, didn't he?
Yeah.
You know? But they said, no, you go up and find out.
Yeah.
How do you think, when you look at them, it says they were scared?
That's an excuse.
So, but still, they were. Because that's, what's in the heart comes out of the mouth. They were terrified. Well, how would you feel seeing all the mountains up there shaking? Rumbling and
put
this
fear in you.
fire. Why would it put fear in you? What would
Because
you be
it's so
feeling?
powerful and all this incredible power is happening.
And this thunderous voice coming down at them.
And they'd never heard that before.
No.
It was just...
But they knew it was him because of all the miracles, how they came out, and their enemy was destroyed when the Red Sea closed up. And all the women got their tambourines out, were starting to dance around, happy, joyous. Then when they came to the mountain, they were terrified. What in them would terrify them to go before?
Their idolatry, their mind, their Egyptian mindset, because they hadn't faced Elohim. They hadn't faced Yahuah before, and they could see his power was greater than what they'd been living in. So I think they were just terrified.
So when you look at Yahuwah's mind and heart, how do you think he felt about the way he actually approached them? And they're terrified. We can sit back and say, yeah, it's just an excuse, but it was actually happening.
He
Of course. Yeah.
he probably felt sorry for them and didn't want them to be afraid. He wanted them to love.
So how do you think he would have thought about the way he approached
He was
them?
devastated to the point where not long after that he wanted to push the reset button, wipe them all out, and start again with Moses. He was devastated because he'd done all this stuff. You know, he's got feelings too.
Yeah,
He's
well, that's what
heartbroken.
we're looking at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it goes way back before Egypt. He'd been working on these people for so long, you know. And also
What do you
this
think he was working at, trying to achieve, Mark?
coming close to them. You can only come a little bit. You can only sort of peek in a little bit on an altar or this or that or
Of course.
burning bush. Otherwise he'd frackle them up because of their sin.
No other reason.
He's righteous and they're... I can't think of
But
another reason.
how's his heart feeling towards them?
Loves them.
Mm.
Yeah.
He
So
loved,
yeah.
he loved them, and he wanted to go back to what he had in the Garden of Eden.
Mm.
That was his whole plan.
And what was that?
Open access, so they could talk to him and see him, and he could talk to them and
And
see
why
them.
did he want that situation?
Because that was his heart. He loved his people, and that's all he wanted.
Because of love.
Mm.
Yeah, so that's, we're getting an understanding of how his heart really is.
Mm.
We're created in his image,
Mm.
so his heart situation, even though he's so powerful and strong,
Mm.
Yeah.
you know, there's evil working against him,
Mm.
achieving the goal to do as you said, to get close,
Yeah.
Mm.
you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about seeing Yahuah in this light now?
Oh, it's very different because I've been thinking the opposite. Yeah,
Mm.
it's a bit of a shock. But when you look at how he treated his people he's chosen, he just bent over backwards and did so much for them, and miracle after miracle, all sorts of incredible.
Don't wander too far into history.
Yeah,
So Moses went up the mount.
he went up the mountain and he got the the 10 Commandments.
He came down.
Came down and he saw them all worshipping golden calf
And what else were they doing?
dancing and
Orgy
orgies.
behaviour.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. They're all having sex with each other
Mm.
and being totally
Depraved.
disgusting,
Mm.
you know? So in 40 days that happened. How quick did Satan move?
Yeah.
But this is what was
Inside
in their
them.
heart.
Yeah.
in them.
Spirit.
Mm.
Mm.
Yeah.
Interesting,
reveal what
isn't
was
it?
in them.
How quick,
Mm.
40 days, and they're all off their face, drunk, drugs,
Mm.
you know,
Mm.
sexual orgies,
Mm.
orgies, and
Mm.
animals, and
Yeah.
all sorts of dreadful things. So Moses just smashes the 10 Commandments and says they're not worth it because
Mm.
he felt for whose heart.
Yahuah's. Yeah.
So Moses was up there knowing him, having love with him,
Loving him.
just wonderful time. And he
Yeah.
comes down,
Mm.
Satan's moved on them because of what was in their heart. And it's all manifesting,
Mm.
you know.
Yeah.
And Yahuah has to what?
Forgive
Forgive
them.
Yeah.
Mm.
Love them. Yeah.
So he got Moses to go up again, another 40 days and 40 nights.
Mm.
did it all again, came down with the right ones and the full instructions of the temple and its worship with its feasts and everything. Imagine having a brain to remember all that.
Yeah.
The measurements and everything he was given, the blueprint.
Yeah.
So imagine
Cool.
the
Didn't write
mind.
it all down, did he?
Well, he didn't have anyone with him to do it,
No.
did he?
Don't think so. No.
So he got the instruction, and through the anointing on him, and his face was glowing when he came back down. He could retain all that, and probably wrote it all out. What had to be done.
Yeah.
So Yahuwah's trusting Moses, isn't he?
Yeah.
Well, it said Yahuwah also met Moses in his tent as well, even before the tabernacle was built. Yahuwah would meet Moses in his tent and speak to him. So if the bits he couldn't remember, he probably just fixed up. Yeah.
So what are you thinking of Yahuwah, what he's been through, what he's trying to do?
He's been through hell.
Bloody hell.
And he's still
Long suffering.
trying to do that today, reach people. You know? So we have to look at what's going on, what he actually went through, how he felt. Then they came down and they built this tabernacle that wasn't for the promised land yet.
No. It was temporary and it was mobile, so they could journey with it.
Yes, and where were they journeying? I'm gonna follow that crowd wherever that crowd may lead.
It's only supposed to take him about a week to get to the promised land.
But it didn't.
Didn't. No.
Why?
Their disobedience, their
Complaining.
idolatry, they complained.
Yeah, I think it came to a crux when he sent the spies in, and I think that was when he said, "That's it.
Oh, that's jumping the gun.
You guys are wandering for 40 years now.
That's jumping the gun.
Oh, rein me back in."
Gone too far. So what happened when they got all that instruction? What happened when they built the tabernacle? They had to what?
Sacrifice.
Offer it up.
Yeah. Dedicate the temple.
Dedicate.
Yeah. And that's where Yahuwah's presence came in with fire and the cloud at daytime and the fire at night. And that's where his presence was in the
And where was he leading them? For 40 years through the desert.
He was leading them to the promised land.
And why did he take 40 years? What was that reason for?
Because they would not give up their idolatry. They would not give up their complaining. Every single thing that he did for them, such as giving them manna, giving them quail, giving them this, giving them that, they bitched and complained the whole time. And he thought, well, these people aren't worthy to enter the promised land.
Right. So what did he do with them?
went around in circles, took them around a whole lot of different ways, and he was waiting for them to change, to acknowledge him and be clean, because they were going to enter into the promised land and go through. And
So what did Miss Prissy say to Scarlett? She told us she knew how to do it.
I ain't birthing babies.
I don't know nothing about birthing babies, Miss Scarlett. Right, so what was Yahuah doing with Prissy?
She didn't know anything.
Melly was having what?
A baby.
Right.
So they were all having babies.
So what was Yahuah doing?
He was working on the new generation.
Don't you remember when the ground opened up and 23,000 went?
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
Snakes came in and was killing them, and the fire came that was killing them.
Yeah.
So,
That was because of all their idolatry.
yeah.
He told them up front.
So what
You
did
guys
he,
have done.
what you said that they weren't deemed fit enough to go into
The
the
promised land.
promised land.
Yeah.
So what did he do?
You wipe them out.
He killed
Wiped
them.
most of them all out, yeah.
Yeah.
Waited for the next generation to come.
There were only how many that went in?
2.
Two from the old generation, yeah.
Yeah. Out of 3 million, there are only 2
Mm,
that made it.
mm.
Over the age of 20.
Yeah.
Mm. Absolutely. Whole new
So,
generation.
yeah.
Mm.
So he kept a whole new generation
Mm.
that were involved with temple.
Worship. They hadn't lived in Egypt, so
Yeah.
that's where they were.
They only heard stories.
Yeah.
Mm.
Like Mikey only hears stories
Mm.
about life before, doesn't he?
Mm.
Yeah.
You know, but he's got his own
Life
experience.
experience.
Yeah.
Mm.
Okay.
Mm.
So how's Yahuah feeling about doing all that? Did he feel bad? Was he hurt? Was he upset?
Well,
Moses
could
was
have been.
always trying to intervene. and
Initially
help.
he was,
Yeah.
but then he went on with it. He got on with it.
And Moses could see how the people really were because he
Mm.
got stuck with them all.
Mm.
Remember, he was just ministering.
Mm.
Mm.
One pastor, one rabbi, one teacher, ministering to 3 million people is impossible.
Too
The
much.
line would be there all day.
Mm.
Yeah.
Do you want to have a talk with him
Yeah.
and ask Yahuah what to do? And at the end of the day, the sun went down, was getting cold, they'd all go back. The next morning they all came, there was a line again.
Mm.
Yeah, his father-in-law told him he was nuts. It's not the way to do it.
Yeah.
You need a team,
And offered, yeah.
basically.
Yeah. So then this is how it grew, and they learnt how to deal with the whole situation.
Yeah.
And this is what
Yeah.
Yahuah, the father, the husband,
Mm.
was organising and teaching.
Yeah.
What sort of a heart did he have? And yet,
I love him.
after he did everything he did, and they're just
Mm.
complaining and carrying on and ungrateful
Very patient.
and disrespectful
Patient.
as to what he's doing,
Yeah.
you know?
Mm.
How do you feel about Yahuah now?
Very different.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What's the difference?
Because I just was thinking about what's happened to him now and people who worship him now, but looking back in history of his amazing heart and love for his people to bring them out of bondage, to set them free and put them into a promised land, to give them a whole new start, you know.
Mm.
He just, yeah, he was there for them.
So we're going from this situation till the end of Moses, Solomon's life and the separation of the nation.
Mm-hmm.
So can we run through that? We've done it a few times. Do you want to share that? What happened up from then on? They sent the slaves in, to the scouts in,
Spies in, yeah.
and those 2 guys, what are their names?
Joshua and Caleb.
They gave a good report, whereas the others gave a bad report.
Yeah, they were freaked out by the giants and the big ass grapes and everything else. They said, we can't go in there. And they put fear in the whole camp.
Mm.
And that's pretty much when Moses declared, none of you are going in.
That's like what religious people are doing.
Mm.
Mm.
Yeah.
So he kept the youth
Mm.
who were trained in temple worship,
Mm.
Yeah.
and they went into the land and they had to conquer all the land and kick out all those
Yeah.
that were,
All the Canaanites.
yeah,
Yeah.
ruling the land. They had to fight with them,
They kicked
clean it all out.
Yeah, they kicked most of them out. They allotted land for all the different tribes. 2.5 of them stayed outside, but most of the land was divvied up.
Some of them were disobedient
Yes. Yeah.
and didn't do,
Mm.
so there was trouble because they didn't do what they were told.
Mm.
There were consequences.
Yeah.
other wars and all sorts of intermarriages and things just brought difficulties and consequences to them because of their disobedience.
Yeah, they thought they could trade and be allies with the nations. And that was not what Yahuah wanted. He said, smite them, get rid of them. That's it.
They brought them in.
And then they wanted to have kings like the other nations had,
Yeah.
rulers over them.
Yeah, Joshua.
What did he say would happen if they wanted that?
You'll have one,
Yeah.
and you'll have all the problems that come with it.
So he's quite aware
Mm.
of what he's doing,
Yeah.
what he's allowing them, what he's rule number 2ing to them.
Let them have everything they want.
Right, he gave them enough rope to
Hang themselves.
Yeah, they were pretty much in the dark ages because Joshua was the last real anointed person who'd been with Moses, and then when after Joshua died, it went into judges, and they all just took on the worship of the nations, and little prophets here and there, Samson and all these little judges came along and to try and get them into order. And they get in order for a while, the land would be prosperous, then
have
they
good kings.
then they go into slavery, then they sin again, go into idolatry, then they got conquered again. It's a
And
big
this
cycle.
was going on constantly.
Yeah.
How do you think Yahuah was thinking, how can I work this? Or did he know?
He knows.
He
She
knew.
He
knew.
knows.
He knew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he had to suffer what they were doing
Yeah.
Yeah.
to try. What was he trying to do? What was he trying to get them to see?
Obey me and live, and I can come close to you. I can be in your camp, in your nation.
Yeah.
You can be a shining light and show everybody what it looks like.
And what did he tell David about Solomon? There was a prophecy about Israel, Jerusalem, what was going to
But
happen.
I won't destroy them till the end of Solomon's reign.
Yeah,
Mm.
because he
I won't
promised.
kick them out.
Yeah.
Mm.
So then what happened when Solomon died? The nations,
There was a civil war.
They split.
Yeah, big split.
so
Different
they had
temples.
2 temples going,
Different temples.
more confusion.
Yep.
And then there's mixtures coming in
Mm.
amongst them all. So
Mm.
what did Yahuah say? How wrong is Yahuah in this, doing what he did?
It's
Wasn't-
not wrong.
Yeah.
He was their Elohim, and he.
Does it bring to mind something about our behaviour, ourselves,
Yes.
seeing this?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
It's the same.
It's
It's
idolatry.
all like a shadow of how everything happens today.
Satan does the same thing
Mm.
all the time.
Yeah.
And Yahusha does the same thing all the
Yes.
time, which is the truth.
Mm. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Idolatrous behaviours.
So then what happened to the nation?
They got taken into captivity. First by the Assyrians and the rest by the Babylonians.
Yeah.
And then they found themselves in captivity. The Assyrians took the biggest part of Israel went to Assyria, and they never went back. They just got scattered into the world, and they're gone. But the Jews in captivity, some of them went back and rebuilt their temple again
Yeah.
under Ezra.
But before that, what did Yahuah give his wife?
Certificate of divorce.
Yeah.
Mm.
Cancelled the old covenant,
Mm.
the covenant that he'd had with them from Moses to there, the 10 Commandments, the covenant, the whole
So again, he had a plan what he was going to do in the
future. Mm.
Yeah, they call it an everlasting covenant because Elohim is eternal, but he's not the one who broke it.
Mm.
So once it's broken,
Yeah.
it's not eternal, is it?
No, it's gone.
That agreement, that specific agreement, that handshake, is null and void.
Mm.
So,
Okay, so that's where we're up to, right? And we're looking at who?
Yahuah.
Yahuah.
Yahuah the father image. He gave them an image that he was a father and a husband.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was his wife. Wasn't his bride. She was his wife, Israel. And he saw her coming at him with all kinds of mixtures of
Worship.
Yeah.
adding
To the
and
Torah.
subtracting
From the
as
word.
to what he gave them. How many years before? At Moses?
1,000.
Yeah, nearly 1,000 between Moses and Saul. Yeah. Just about.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about Yahuah, what he's been doing
Oh,
over the generations? And it's all about,
time, yeah.
so we need to be in the historical timeline, don't we?
Yeah.
Of what actually happened there.
Yeah.
So we know, and we know Yahuwah's heart. How do you feel about Yahuwah's heart now? How he treated them?
Wonderful.
Oh, he was very clever. Very clever. Knew exactly what they were going to do at every single step, every turning point, how they would behave, how they would treat him, what they would do. He already knew everything that he needed to know.
And he says that he knows what we're going to pray for before we pray. So he's amazing, isn't he?
Yeah.
When you think how he wanted to present himself as a father and as a husband to Israel. And he came with the deal. He never gave in, he never forsook them, he was always with them, had his presence there. He was always loving and kind and just and faithful. Were they?
Never.
Right, so this is why he gave her a certificate of,
Divorce.
because of her,
Idolatry.
you can say, wicked behaviour,
Yeah.
you know? Wicked behaviour to him.
Yeah.
Now, as you know, they were taken in captivity, some came back, and there's a whole lot of people there now coming in from all over the world saying, we're the chosen race, we're the lost sheep, we're the. And they still have the attitude and mindset of the bride, don't they?
Yeah.
Of his wife.
Yeah.
They still have the same attitudes that Israel had towards him.
Yeah.
And there they are creating laws and rules and worship the way they want to worship him, mixing stuff
Yeah.
so they can worship him how they want.
Yeah.
And they're claiming, who are they claiming to be? Israel.
Yeah. The chosen.
Yeah.
His chosen people.
Yeah.
The only one who have the right to be, do, say, act.
Who was that prophet that had to marry a prostitute?
I think it was.
You remember?
I think it was Ezekiel.
No, I can't remember.
And he went through hell. And that's like what Yahuah had married. The mindset of Israel was like a prostitute. Remember that story?
Yeah, I can't remember who it was.
You don't have to look it up.
Yeah.
So, you know, here's this prostitute demanding, declaring that she wants to worship Yahuah her way. Yeah?
Yeah.
And how would he feel having her doing all these depraved things at him, at his face, and declaring she's his wife, she has rights in the world, globally, she has rights. And she's at him and at him and at him, won't stop. She just won't stop, and he's there on the throne.
Yeah.
Does he want her depraved worship?
No, it's satanic, it's wicked.
How is it making him feel?
Regretful, or I don't know, just devastated because of everything he's done for them.
But he
And
had
a plan.
fantastic. And we're going to talk about that plan when we come back in a few minutes, brothers and sisters.
Yep.
In the break, we were talking about Hosea the prophet. And Yahuah told him he had to marry Gomer. And Mark's just going to tell us about Hosea and Gomer and what it means. How Yahuah used that as a witness to Israel. Okay?
Yeah, well, that's pretty much it. He was told to marry a prostitute, and he loved her, and she kept wandering off to sleep and have other partners. And
Wonder if they were all her kids, his kids.
probably not. No, he left the kids with him, and she went off to party each night, and he went. I didn't know that bit. He actually went back after. He went out after her and brought her home, and that was a symbol of what Yahuah was doing. He was the one approaching
With Israel.
his idolatrous wife, Israel. He was the one approaching them all the time and covering their sin. And don't worry, let's get yourself back up and let's keep going. Offer another sacrifice. Here's another king. Here's a better prophet. Here's another king. He's always working with them, going after them, even though they were a whore. Which leads us to the next bit. He had every right, according to his Torah. The only way you could annul, end a marriage, offer a certificate of divorce, was if your wife was off being a whore, was if your wife was off sleeping with having other partners. So Israel was constantly being spiritually adulterous, which leads us to the certificate of divorce. So, which is what he did.
So there's Yahuah on the throne. He's looking down at her, Israel, and she's cavorting with all the nations and doing all these wicked things. And he loved her still. And it shows us his steadfast love. So he's on the throne thinking. How do you think he's feeling? He's just full of love. He did everything in the creation in love. The whole thing. And how's he being treated?
Just being double crossed all the time. Everything that he does, they're just going against. And he's trusting them, and they're just going their own way, and just, he could have an incredible hurt and suffering and pain, but his love just covered it all, and that's an amazing love to be able to withstand that and to keep going.
He knew that the seed of Adam and Eve's sin was in them all, in the whole world. And he's trying to work something out so that, like with Noah and his family, he got them out and destroyed the rest. Now he's got another plan. Yahuah had a supernatural, amazing, incredible plan to reveal to his people. So what happened? What did he do?
He came, one of his angels came to Mary and said, "You're going to bear a child who's going to be the Messiah." That was basically Yahuah telling her that
I'm coming in.
I'm going to come in and be made man. So
Take on flesh.
take on the flesh of humanity, so that he would then grow.
Where was the sin? In the
in the flesh.
Flesh and bones.
And because he was Elohim, he didn't have sin. So that's how you get the Immaculate Conception, because he basically put himself into Mary and became Yahusha.
So can we talk a little bit more about the transition from the throne into flesh? Can we look at that in the spiritual spirit and supernatural, what actually happened?
He
What's the scripture that said that in, where was that? In the New Testament? That he took on flesh?
In a few scriptures.
the blood of Elohim went into
And the word
Yahusha
became flesh.
because the blood is perfect. He came into a weakened vessel. I'm talking about blood.
It was in John 1, and the
Yeah.
word became flesh.
Yeah, okay, can we look that up?
Yeah. He became a weakened vessel as a man. He took on the flesh and the bones of Mary, but his actual DNA, his blood, the seed, the corrupt seed that was in every other man and woman was not in him because it passes on through the blood. And the blood comes from the Father. The sperm comes from the Father, the blood comes from the Father. It came from
We're
Adam.
just looking at the actual, what he did from the throne. There's Israel down there doing all this false worship.
Yeah.
They won't give it up. They're demanding that they are his wife, even though he divorced her
Yeah.
and scattered them.
Yeah.
They
Stuck
came
out.
back.
Well, Yahuah had a plan all the time, and he also had prophesied. There was prophecies of a Messiah that was going
All
to
the
come
way through.
all the way through. That was
Yeah.
prophecy.
You got that?
Yep.
Yeah? Sorry.
That's right.
So it says in John 1, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with Elohim, and the Word was Elohim. He was with Elohim in the beginning. Through him all things were made. Without him nothing was made that has been made. In him was life, and that life was the light of all mankind. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. There was a man sent from Elohim, whose name was John. He came as a witness to testify concerning that light, so that through him all might believe.
Is it about the flesh, taking on flesh in there?
I don't know if it's 1 John.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
well, that's the part we want to read.
There's lots of scriptures.
So at John 1:14, the Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us. That's where it says it.
Okay, so there is Yahuah sitting on the front throne, had a plan to do this.
Yeah.
So what do you think he went through to do this?
He went through a humbling. He lowered himself into a human form. He metamorphed. I don't believe he just sent part of himself. I believe his whole being transformed.
The fullness of
Yeah.
Yahuah is bodily in Yahusha,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah.
So he did something that entered into Yahusha. You know, he did something, he became flesh.
Yeah.
Isn't that a miraculous thing?
Well, it is.
It's
You
a
know,
new species.
Yeah. He was a new creation, a
Yeah.
whole new species.
Mm.
Now, why would he want to give that up and not be that in the throne room?
Well, he was limited. He really couldn't, as we've proven so far, he couldn't come very close to his people. They just wouldn't get in line, and to be that close to them, he'd frackle them up. But if he came as a man, he could, put his arm around them, and he could love them, and he could lift them and heal them, and they could know him.
Yeah. So fulfilling all the prophecies must have done something to the people. What were they saying? Who he is to do this?
He must be the son of Elohim. That's the quote. But I think they knew he was Elohim. Those who met him knew, because there's only one Elohim. So, yeah.
So he came and did all this, and then rose from the dead, went back to the throne room, and it says that he went back as a lamb, a slain lamb.
Yeah.
Who is the lamb?
Yahusha.
Yeah.
So who is Elohim?
Yahusha.
Yeah.
And your story when sitting at the right hand means?
In all authority. If you were using your right hand anywhere in Scripture, it was to give out the authority, to give the birthright, to give the blessing. Everything that Elohim was, Yahusha is now. He is Elohim. He took on all the birthright, blessing, inheritance, authority. It says he was given all power and authority.
Right. And what's happened to all that about the Yahuah worship? Got all these people Yahuah only, and they don't want to see Yahusha, do they?
Well, because they don't have the right spirit, and they've only got the text which he left us all with, like a parable. They just see, two people, a hand.
Yeah, they say he's one.
Yeah. Who's he talking to?
Yeah.
They can't see, because it's like any book. You got to read it and go, I can see it.
So if he went to all that trouble, went back to the throne as the Lamb, took seat on the throne as Elohim, why would he want to bring Yahuah back into the situation and have two of them there, two Elohim?
He wouldn't, because he said he is one, and he is the fullness of Elohim bodily. So there's no space there. There's no part there for another being.
So what is Israel the prostitute saying about that?
It's a lie.
I am not a widow. I am not a prostitute. I am a queen. I sit as a queen, worshipped as a queen. I am the wife. I am the bride. I am it. Yeah.
So really, when we look at it, the way the Yahuah only people are looking at Yahuah the Father and worshipping him. They haven't looked at what Yahuah the Father did and became Yahusha, and he's gone back. So we see Yahusha on the throne, don't we?
Yeah.
We don't see Yahuah on the throne because he morphed into a different being. He doesn't want to be that being receiving worship from a prostitute wife.
No.
Well, if you look at what Yahusha actually said, if you've seen me, you've seen the Father. People don't understand that scripture either. He's saying, I am him in those words.
When you think about it, thinking of Yahuah and all the things we were just describing about him and his plan, it must have been, he had the most incredible love to want to give up that his position, his throne, to give that up, because he could see that the people weren't going to
respond to him. They were having their own way about it.
There was nothing that was going to change them, because he'd already divorced them and they still kept going. So he had to die. He had to give up himself to become a new creation. That's an incredible situation.
But But that is the situation,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Mm.
You know?
Yeah.
And here we are today finding out the doorway in through the narrow gate and going into the vein
Yeah.
to come to the place in the wilderness where the bride is waiting.
Mm.
Yeah?
Mm. Yeah.
She's waiting.
Mm.
She's prepared herself. She's waiting for his return.
Yeah.
That's where we're up to in the full scripture.
Yeah.
Why would he want us to enter into Yahuah, the Father worship?
Doesn't.
Why would he want us to talk about Yahuah, the Father?
Doesn't.
Only in historic context. He doesn't want us to talk about it. But it's not who he is.
So he had this plan to enter into our bodies.
Yeah.
Took the temple worship
Mm.
and feasts and everything, and he brought it into our body, and he said, your body's now the temple.
Mm.
If you want me in, you've got to go in the door. Follow me,
Mm.
you know?
Yeah,
Mm.
definitely. That's why they don't want to look at the where Yahusha went and honour him, because if they what?
You can see what you're saying. Why they didn't want to go into the temple worship.
Because if they hold on to Yahuwah, then they can hold on to all their old worship, and it's all laid out before them. They don't have to go into the supernatural. They don't have to not know what's going to happen tomorrow or go on some supernatural adventure. They don't have to hear his voice because it's all just laid out. Temple, literal stuff.
So the spirit in their flesh has deceived them.
Yeah. Mm.
They can't see Yahusha.
Yeah.
No.
They're pushing him aside,
Mm.
wanting to bring the old covenant to replace the new covenant
Mm.
and do that one before him.
Yeah.
But he's not interested.
No.
He's interested in those that want to come in
Mm.
and be the bride.
Yeah. Definitely.
If they don't accept Yahusha as Elohim, it says that if they continue in the old covenant shadow teachings and Yahuah only, then they can't see. They've got a veil over their eyes, their hearts. They cannot see.
Mm.
They can't come
Mm.
to understand because of what they're doing.
So
Yeah.
us, with what we're believing and saying,
Mm.
what are we up for?
A lot of hatred.
Versa?
Persecution. The same thing that Yahusha went through when he walked.
Mm.
Right.
Mm.
So you've got to be strong, haven't you? Because even the elect can be deceived.
Mm.
Yeah.
So do you guys want to say anything about what you feel about Yahusha's time, Yahuwah's time, and Yahusha? Do you want to say anything before we close?
Well, everything Yahuwah did was for a purpose and because he loved his people.
Mm.
His people weren't in the same mindset as him and just constantly wicked. Constantly. All this wickedness in his face.
Mm.
It was basically we don't care what you say, we'll do what we want
Mm.
the whole time.
And we didn't know we were involved in all that sort of
No.
worship, did
No.
we?
No,
Until he came to us and showed us.
that's it. So
Mm.
he's said that he knew us before we were even born, those that he'd chosen. So
Mm.
if you know him, Yahusha that is, if you know him, then follow him.
Mm.
Follow him to the ends of the earth.
And it's all about
Behaviour.
Yeah.
Mm.
we've got to change what's been in us,
Yes.
throw it on the altar,
Mm.
burn it up, and take on the fruits of righteous behaviour.
Mm.
Absolutely.
Mm.
That's wonderful.
Mm.
Anyone want to say anything more?
Oh,
No,
beautiful.
I think it's
You happy?
I think everyone just really, I think we all like misunderstood what it was like, and didn't really understand that he was, how he treated them. Everyone thinks of him like a big, back then, like a big tyrant, trying to force them, but he was actually really, kind, forgiving, always trying to get them right, on the right track, and getting them back to where he wanted them to go.
Yeah.
And they
For
were
their
just,
own sake.
and they were just being difficult and not doing what he, doing what he wanted and doing the right thing. They were still stuck in that Egypt mindset.
To remind you of someone close to you?
Yeah.
Who?
Joe.
He's gone off to have his own way. And he's going to get
Consequences.
I hope you're not going to have consequences. You'd be wise.
Yeah.
He can always come back and change, but it's up to him, isn't it?
Yeah.
Very good. Very good, buddy.
Wonderful.
Okay, brothers and sisters, we hope this is a blessing to you and you understand. Give us some comments. That would be lovely. Bye.
Like a butterfly deep inside, wrestling to break free. Like a butterfly deep inside, with Yahushua spirit seed. Like a butterfly deep inside, this burning in my heart. Like a butterfly deep inside, setting me apart.